What about someone who's struggling with student loan debt, like myself and my family, from 20 years ago, 26 years ago? Um, what about these student loans? They kind of
Well, student loans in America have become a very broad-based problem. It's hard to find any family that's not really wealthy that does not have some member of the family who's struggling to pay off student loan debt. And at a time in their lives when they are most pressed financially, when they don't have jobs, when they have that first job. And we now have trillions of dollars of student debt that is driving people to bad credit and bankruptcy, and it's primarily
it
because
is. I speak from experience.
people are being driven into situations where they have bad credit, and that has repercussions because they can't buy cars, they can't buy houses, they can't even get a cell phone because their credit has been ruined by the fact that they can't pay their student debt. And this is a very, very wide-ranging problem in America that's not being paid significant attention. And the real problem is not the amount of the debt, but the interest rates that are being paid. So if you find people who have a lot of student debt, they're not paying 2%, 2.5% interest. They're paying interests that are rates that are much higher than we allow American corporations to borrow money from, much higher than we allow banks to borrow from the Federal Reserve. So an easy solution to the student loan program is to create an independent authority which borrows money from the federal government and uses that money to refinance student loans at better interest rates and allows people to pay interest only when their incomes are low. So it's another one of those problems that needs to be solved and can be solved. It simply takes political will on the part of the president.
Why hadn't that been done yet, in your opinion?
Barack Obama doesn't care, and
That's pretty
his
strong
administration. Well, you know what? I think Barack Obama is one of the most capable presidents this country ever has had. He certainly is one of the smartest. He has around him has collected a brilliant group of people. So when Barack Obama can't provide care for veterans, it's not because he lacks the competence to do so. When Barack Obama cannot refinance student loans, it's not because he lacks the competence. It's because he lacks the political will to make the compromises necessary to take action. And in some sense, you remember Rahm Emanuel, the Baron of Chicago, before his police started shooting unarmed people in the streets, said, never let a good crisis go to waste, and if you haven't got a crisis, create one. So to some extent, the Obama administration likes the fact that you have all these people under pressure and in pain because they don't know that it's Obama that's responsible for their pain, and their pain, in fact, makes them more politically motivated. So the same thing, of course, could be said of the Republicans, who have not moved in this respect at all. So it's not a hard problem to solve. It can be solved actually by executive action and without even participation by the Congress. And so if Barack Obama cared as much about student loans as he does making sure that people buying guns at gun shows get background checks, the problem would be solved.
Now, what are the student loan debts that are happening across the country have long-reaching ramifications for people even thinking about college, for even people kind of entering the workforce. Do you think the front runners for the Democratic campaign, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, have they addressed this issue at all?
Bernie Sanders has addressed the issue quite extensively because he believes that public colleges and universities should essentially be tuition free. Problem is he has no idea of how to pay for that, and eventually I remember telling my son some years ago, who was admiring a federal courthouse in Queens, whenever you see a grand and glorious federal courthouse, remember that it was paid for by some guy who can't afford to take his families to the movies. wasn't paid for by the Rockefellers. It wasn't paid for by the Oracle of Omaha. It wasn't paid for by the hedge fund managers. It was paid for by normal, everyday people. And the result of them carrying these burdens is that they lack a capacity to take care of their families better. So what we have to remember is, yes, we can have free public universities in this country, but all of us are going to pay for it. And finding a way to pay for that is as important as having the thought that it should be paid for. Now, of course, Hillary Clinton has announced that whatever Bernie Sanders says, she agrees with. So I guess she's in favor of free public universities as well. And at the same time, she, of course, lacks any way or even plan for how to pay for it.
But of course, those that the possibility of free universities doesn't address the student loan crisis in the present.
And the people, but you must remember, the City University of New York used to be called the Free University of New York. And the idea was, in New York at least, that the City University would be tuition free. And so it's not impossible, particularly in the age of technology, to have tuition-free universities. Of course, that doesn't accommodate tremendous sports facilities, new buildings being built every 2 years, and faculty earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for working 10 hours a week. So there's an entire structure in the university system which has latched on to student loans as a way to fund what's in their interests. If you want to start a university where people just go to school and get a college education, that's not very expensive. So probably we ought to let all the existing state universities go out of business, go bankrupt, default on their loans, and start again and have free universities in every state and every city where people can opt to get a free education without all the frills.
How does one refinance the student loan?
Well, the United States government goes to the Federal Reserve, which has a discount window, and is happy to lend to J.P. Morgan Chase at 1/4% per year. And the way that works is Chase brings in all the money that they've loaned out and pledges that against the money that they borrow. So you create a new entity which takes in all the student debts, just the way Chase takes in loans they make to businesses and corporations. And they go to the discount window, and the discount window lends this new entity money at 1/4%, just the way it does to the banks every day. And this new entity then uses that money to refinance the student loans at very low percentage interest rates. That then allows people with student loan burdens to make their payments on time and to pay off their loans over a reasonable period of time, and everybody wins. Doesn't seem too hard, does it?
No, it doesn't, and sort of the simplicity makes me a little skeptical. But I guess it's because of the fact that it hasn't even been done.
Well, most of the solutions to our problems are really very simple, because the problem is not being able to figure out a solution. It's that every system exists because it works for someone. Now, the student loan system is working for the big universities because they're able to charge higher fees, collect more money. It works for the financial system because it doesn't take a genius to figure out that J.P. Morgan Chase is borrowing money at 1/4% and is buying student loans that are paying 9% interest. That's a very big profit number.
Yeah.
So people are profiting from this student loan system, and the people who are profiting are not the students who are being driven to bankruptcy and bad credit. So once again, when you do these things, it's not that they're hard to do. It's not that they take a neurosurgeon like Ben Carson to figure out how to do. It's that any change disturbs the system. I mean, I'll give you an example in that I have a company that makes LED light bulbs to replace fluorescent light bulbs that are creating very bad situations for people in offices and schools and factories around the country. And it's very hard to get school systems to buy these. They save money, they provide better quality of light, better health for students. But there's some sucker out there who today is selling fluorescent light bulbs to the school system. And if you replace fluorescent light bulbs that have to be changed twice a year with LED light bulbs that get changed once every 20 years, he's out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And so every system that you have, even systems that hurt people, have people that benefit. And they provide in the society an anchor, a drag against change. But student loans are a crisis now. The solution is very, very simple, and I hope some president in the near future decides to do it. I don't think there's any hope that Barack Obama is going to do it. Maybe I'll get elected.